These are days and nights of red and blood. Heroes will rise as the anchors fall.
Hey, what's up guys, it's Cypher from CypherPK.com, and today I'm bringing you my Magicka Nightblade PvP build for the Imperial City patch. I just want to say that I am on the PTS right now just so I can show you guys endgame gear for the build and what you should expect once you've gotten all your gear and upgraded it to gold. I still am working on, grinding out gear on the live game for all my builds, and I'll be, doing that throughout until I get the gear that I need. I just want to say that when it comes to gear in this patch, there is a bit of an issue. We only have 3 V16 jewelry sets. There's no V16 Shadow Walker, there's no V16 Cyrodiil's Light, there's no V16 Ravager Healer. We only have jewelry sets for the Willpower, Endurance, and Agility. Those are the only V16 jewelry sets in the game. So if you want to achieve the maximum potential for stats and whatnot, usually you're going to have to use those sets, and you're kind of forced into a corner with how you can customize your theorycraft when you only have three jewelry sets to pull from, and one of them is made for stamina, and the other one is made for magicka, and then one is kind of like a in-between health type of set. So what I'm trying to say is the gear is going to be a little shaky from now until we get some new V16 jewelry. You can still use V14 jewelry, and I probably will until I get the V16 jewelry because they are kind of expensive. But until then, I'm going to give you guys some options on what you can do for now with your jewelry sets and armor sets. Some of the armor sets you need to do PvE for. I'm not a PvE player, but I'm going to end up doing them just so I can receive those armor sets. But from now, I'll give you guys endgame gear, what you can use until then, and just give you a few options. So let's get into it. I like to make these quick. This is our front bar. It's a dual-wield bar. This is a dual-wield resto build. It's not a max spell damage, and it's not a Destro Resto sustain build. It's a bit of a mix in between them. And I will make a Destro Resto build, and I will make a max spell damage build. But until then, I'm going to give you guys this build. It's kind of a mix with sustain and damage, and I really like how it plays in the Imperial City. We have Impale as an execute. You kind of need an execute in this patch for most builds just because of the damage reduction. Concealed weapon is going to give you speed bonus. It's a long stun, 4 seconds, and it's while you're in stealth, it's going to give you 25% extra speed. The Lotus Fan has finally been buffed. It no longer is smart not to morph. The initial, I don't know what the unmorphed version is. I think it's something strike, but you can now morph Lotus Fan, and you will still keep the burst damage with the dot and the snare, so you don't lose damage by morphing to Lotus Fan, which is really good. This ability is very, very nice. 70% snare for 6 seconds. That is extremely powerful. Sap Essence, this is going to be some AoE damage. You kind of need it for Imperial City sewers when you're running into mobs, but it also is a good source of, first of all, spell damage, and I use it a lot to pull other Nightblades out of Cloak. Now, I'm not going to be running Mark Target in this build, just because it's kind of, you're kind of strained on, how many abilities you can use. So you could run Mark Target if you want to drop Proxy Debt, but that you'll lose some damage from doing that. But you also gain an extra offensive ability against Nightblades. But Sap Essence, for me, has been doing really well. I ambush against a Nightblade, a Lotus Fan against them. They're snared, so they can't really get away from you. And if they try cloaking, I just pull them out of Cloak with Sap Essence and immediately go into my combo. Dark Cloak, of course, removes damage over time and gives you 3 seconds of invisibility. Can't go wrong with that. Soul Harvest is going to be my ultimate. It's just a really good ultimate, and it also helps you build up your ult for anything on your back bar. Gives you ultimate when you get kills. It's just 50 ult, really cheap. It's basically spammable in the middle of a fight, especially if you're doing a 1vx. Now on our back bar, you can customize with the back bar. There's a lot of options for customization. We have Soul Tether as the ultimate. That's so you can retain the passive from siphoning, and it is also a decent ultimate just for if you feel pressured, you have a lot of people around you, you can activate this, stun everyone, and get out of there. Shadow Image, one of my favorite abilities for juking people around in the Imperial City and Cyrodiil. It's really good for 1vx, and also even in a 1v1, it drains people's stamina, reduces their damage by 15%. definitely one of my favorite Nightblade abilities. Healing Ward. Now people are, Healing Ward was nerfed with this patch, like in general, just because its shields are smaller and so are heals. So Healing Ward isn't, performing as well. But I will give you an option. I am able to sustain with Healing Ward. I can heal myself with Healing Ward, and I'm doing fine. Some people, they take too much damage, they can't avoid as much damage, and they end up needing a little bit more. And I'll give you that option if you need more healing. Double take for speed bonus and 20% increased movement speed. Of course, you use this with concealed weapon, and you can run around pretty quickly. Crippling Grasp, just for some extra dot damage. I find that it's almost necessary with this patch just because of how, the damage reduction is. But you don't necessarily need this. So you can still burst people down without this. And I'll show you what you can put here. And if you don't have Proxy Det, I'll also tell you what you can put here. Proxy Det is just going to be your 8-second, magic bomb that you can use. Time that with your ultimate, with your ambush. And, if you saw the video that I posted yesterday, you'll see how I use this Proxy Det in, combat situations to burst down my opponents. Now for the options, right? This is what you guys are waiting for. If you don't have Proxy Det, you can always put Mark Target. Mark Target is a pretty good ability. You don't have any major fracture with this build or major breach, so this is going to give you that extra spell resistance. Now, if you want to put it, Piercing Mark, of course, so you can combat other Nightblades, put it down here. That's an option. It gives you more damage. It doesn't have the burst damage, but it gives you more overall damage against single target, and against other Nightblades, it helps you out. Now, another option we have, if you don't want to use Crippling Grasp, if you feel like your Healing Ward isn't enough, Blessing of Restoration. This is a very good ability, especially because of the healing nerf. It gives you that extra option to pop your health off. You don't have to wait for Healing Ward to proc, because Healing Ward lasts 4, 5, 6 seconds? 6 seconds before you get the heal. So you can use this with Healing Ward. You can even use this without Healing Ward, but that's a little risky. You can use it with Healing Ward. And let's just say, you drop health. I'm going to jump over here. You pop your Healing Ward, and then you use Blessing Restorations to fill you up. That's a 5.2k heal on crit. So it's a really, really good heal. And if you feel like Healing Ward isn't enough for you, Blessing Restorations, really good ability. It's also group based. Like, you can heal your allies with this ability. So if you're running in a group, it gives you major and minor ward. So you're going to be a little more tanky, and you can heal other players as well as yourself. So definitely a really good ability to consider if you don't want to put Proxy, or if you don't want to put Crippling Grasp on that bar. I personally like Crippling Grasp just because I like the extra dot damage, and it helps me finish off my opponents, slow them down a little bit, and just overall really useful ability. And then if you don't have Proxy, because it does take Assault rank 7, not 10, even though it's all the way down here, it's still Assault rank 7. If you don't have that, you can put Mark Target instead. So now let's get into armor sets really quickly. I'm running 2 Engine Guardian light armor. Now, you don't have to use Engine Guardian. I'll tell you what you can use instead, but this really helps with your sustain. 5-piece Overwhelming Robe. I will probably be running 4 pieces of this with some other sets, but just because of the limited capabilities on the PTS in the live game, I have the 5-piece set on. 5-piece set is actually not bad. The 8% chance when activating class ability to surround yourself with a torrent, that is actually good for DPS, and it does help out. Now, for rings, 2 Cyrodiil's Light Rings for spell damage, Willpower Necklace with Willpower Swords. Now, I'm using a mace here, but you want to use 2 swords because that's going to give you most amount of spell damage. And of course, it's infused, but you want to get the sharpened. I don't think there's Nirnhorn Willpower Swords, but you want to get the sharpened ones. And of course, those will probably cost a lot more. Now, if you don't want to run with the setup, I'm also using a Willpower Staff. You can use a Master's Resto Staff or a Willpower Staff. It's going to give you a 2-piece bonus for Max Magicka. Either of the staffs will work. Now, let me give you the options that you guys are probably looking for. You can run Cyrodiil's Light, Torx Pact Swords with 3 Willpower and then a Master's Resto, or Torx Pact Swords with 4 Healer Necklace, Healer Rings, and 1 Healer Body Piece, and that's going to give you the 4 spell damage bonuses from Overwhelming, and then the Healer bonus, which is going to give you Max Magicka, Recovery, and Regen. Now, if you don't want to run Engine Guardian, you have the option to craft Eyes of Mara I'm pretty sure that's what the set is called. Azumara Swords with helmet and shoulder of the Mara. That's going to give you the 4-piece Mara bonus, which I think gives you max Magicka spell damage and regen. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I think that's what it does. It might also give you stamina regen, which is going to be really useful. So, and if you don't have Overwhelming Robe, you can get the Martial Knowledge 4-piece, which is going to give you basically the same bonus. I'm not 100% sure if there's V16 Martial Knowledge. I think there is, but if there isn't, you know, it's still another option that you have if you don't have Overwhelming. I don't have Overwhelming yet. So, your stats. On the jewelry, I have all recovery, but you know, that's just a safe way to go. If you want more damage, you can switch out 2 for spell damage or 1 for spell damage. You know, the jewelry is really customizable now. Before, in the previous patch, everyone just put reduction on the jewelry pretty much, unless they were trying to block tank and they wanted to put maybe block reduction. But now that the recovery and spell damage has been boosted, it actually is worth, you know, trying out recovery, spell damage, and reduction, you know, a little bit of each. So for now, it's just triple recovery, but you can, you know, switch it up for spell damage if you need it. Now let's look at our stats. We have 2.2k spell damage unbuffed. This is a high elf. This is probably the best race for this build, but I'm an Imperial, and I'm still rocking this build. I'm still pretty much performing at my full potential with an Imperial. High elf is just going to give you more damage and regen, but doesn't mean you have to be a high elf. Good racial choices would be high elf, dark elf, Breton, Imperial, even wood elf. Other races can still pull it off. It's just how you play, you know, it comes down to your play style. So 1855 magic recovery, that's a pretty good amount of magic recovery. That's enough stamina recovery. 2.2k unbuffed spell damage. When it's fully buffed, it can go up to 2.6, and when you're cloaked, 2.874. So that's a lot of spell damage, to be honest with you, and you can definitely work with that and get yourself some decent burst damage timed with your proxy debt and whatnot. So let's look into the champion points really quickly. Let me just find a place to de-aggro these mobs. Alrighty, let's look into the champion points. Start off with the apprentice. 40 points into increasing our critical damage. We're not using any elemental damage, so you don't have to put any into here. Now, spell erosion has been fixed with this patch. It's actually worth putting some points into it, so I have about 12 into there and 40 into increasing my critical damage and spell criticals. No points into here because we're not using any of our, you know, weapon attacks. 50 into Thaumaturge for extra magic damage. Now 22 into reducing critical damage. 40 into Hardy for reducing magic damage, and 20 into Elemental Defender. Now over here we have 10 and 10. This is going to give you just a little bit of a bigger healing ward, and this is going to give you a little bit of a bigger heal from your healing ward, so that both of these stack with each other. And if you want a little more healing, you could also put like about 10 points into Blessed. And I would. It's just on the PCS, you're only working with 300 champion points. On the live game, I have about 360. And with that, I would put about 10 into here. Or you could just put 5 if you don't really have that many points. Over here, we have 20 into reducing the cost of Magicka spells. 50 into increasing our magic recovery. 22 into increasing our stamina recovery. Now, this 22 isn't 100% necessary. If you play your Nightblade well, especially the Magicka Nightblade, you won't be running out of stamina. You gain your stamina back while you're in Cloak. You're not forced to CC break as often. You're not forced to block as often. So you don't even really have to put 22 points in here. I just have it just for a backup in case, you know, my stamina gets strained. 10 into tumbling, just so you can, you know, even a Magicka build needs some tumbling points for CC break and the occasional dodge rolls. So that's what I have for champion points. Now you're probably wondering, werewolf or vampire? No werewolf. You can run this as a human, and you can also run this as a vampire for more Magicka regen, more speed, and a few more options that you can put for your ultimate. Now, if I was a vampire, on my back bar, I would have Bat Swarm over here. That's the only difference. I'm not going to be using Mist Form on a Magicka Nightblade. You don't need it. The only difference is I'll have Bat Swarm over here. You don't have to put, you might, if you're a vampire, you might want to go over here, and instead of putting 40 into Hardy and 20 into Elemental, you might want to go 30-30 or even 20-40, just so you can avoid some of that extra fire damage that's coming your way. So you could run this as a human, you can run this as a vampire. Don't recommend running as a werewolf. There's no point. You'd have to give up an ultimate slot just for some stamina that you don't really need. So Thank you guys so much for watching this build video. Hopefully you benefited from this. I will be grinding my ass off so I can get some of the gear sets and work with them and start uploading actual PvP montages and not just highlights from Twitch. I know you guys are looking for those and you can't wait, so I will be working on those as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have more build videos coming out this weekend and more, after TwitchCon. I'm going to TwitchCon. I'm leaving on next Thursday for TwitchCon, so I'll be streaming and uploading videos and stuff from there, but won't be working as hard just because I'm going to be at a convention. So thank you guys so much. If you have any questions, comment below. You can check out the website cypherpk.com for more build videos and more builds in general. And I really appreciate the support, guys. I will see you guys soon.